How are we doing, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video I just wanted to share with you 6 creative gimbal shots that I use on a regular basis. So just a couple of things that you might be wondering before I get started. Which gimbal I use? So I'm actually using the Crane 2 still, not the newer 2S. I'm using the old version, which is about 3 or 4 years old now, and it's still working great for me. I'm mainly shooting using the really trusty and reliable Sony autofocus system when I'm on a gimbal rather than being in manual focus. I do use manual focus on a few types of shots, which I'll mention a little bit later. You may know this already if you've been following me for a while, but my main 2 lenses that I'll always use in any kind of videography, and especially on a gimbal, are the Tamron lenses, the 17-28 2.8 and the 28-75 2.8. I especially like them on gimbals just because of how lightweight they are. So I'll actually have image stabilization turned on in my camera because the Tamron lenses, as good as they are, they don't actually have image stabilization on the lenses, but I've never really had a problem with only using the stabilization within the camera. And the last thing I wanted to mention is the mode that I use on my gimbal the most often is the full follow mode. And the reason that the full follow mode is my go-to mode is because I just kind of like the way that it follows my movements rather than using the joystick on the gimbal itself, which can look very kind of jittery and robotic at times if you're not very smooth with it. But with that being said, there are other modes on the gimbal that I do use on occasions, and I will also mention them. So the first shot I want to mention is low to the ground, wide angle orbiting shots. For this one, you will need to just put your gimbal into a low down underslung mode, and generally you'll have to just sort of tilt up the camera a little bit, either with the joystick or if you're in full follow mode, just kind of pointing the gimbal upwards to the sky a little bit. Then it's just as simple as orbiting your subject, trying to keep them in the center of the frame as much as possible. For this kind of shot, I generally like to try and stay as wide as possible, so go all the way down to 17 on my lens and try and get in as close as possible because I think that can give the most kind of dynamic looking shot. So the next shot I want to mention, which I really like, is the Michael Bay parallax type shot. And this is usually done on a tighter focal length. I'll usually be at sort of 50mm or above for this one. This is a bit of a trickier shot because you are at a tighter focal length, but the idea is the same. You just want to try and orbit your subject, trying to keep the subject in the center of the frame the whole time. And the beauty of this shot is that the compression that the tighter focal length gives you just makes the background appear like it's moving a lot quicker than it actually is. This again can make your scene look a lot more dramatic, and I'm generally again using autofocus for this one because again, like I said, on the Sony it's just so reliable, and if I haven't got a focus puller, I'd rather just rely on that. But if you were preferring to use manual focus, obviously try to map out a circle around your subject, make sure that they are staying in the same position and you are moving in an even radius all the way around them, and you should be able to get a good same shot just using manual focus as well. So number 3, another shot that I really like is the POV or FPV mode that the gimbal has. This essentially is a setting on your gimbal which will allow it to follow the roll movements as well as the yaw and pitch movements, and this is especially good for things like music videos or things where you want to kind of just change the perspective and not keep your horizon level, just to have some kind of like trippy looking effect. And it's something that Steadicam operators will use a lot when they're kind of like moving from their Steadicam side to side, but it's something great you can do with a gimbal where you can kind of have it close into your chest, and you can also move from side to side and it will follow your movements rather than keeping the horizon level. So number 4 is the push in to reveal focus. So as I mentioned earlier, most of the time I'm using autofocus, but for this shot especially, it won't work in autofocus. You need to be in manual focus because you are pushing in to reveal the focus. I found that the easiest way to do this, if you don't need the subject to be moving, say for like a hero shot or something, if they are just standing in one position, is to set your focus manually on the subject and then actually move backwards to get your shot. That way you're guaranteed to keep the end position in focus, and you can simply just reverse it in post and it will look like you moved forward and you nailed the focus perfectly. Number 5 is a bit of a novelty shot, but it's something that I do like, and I'm happy that the gimbals have this mode as well because on occasions it can look quite cool, and it's the 360 roll movement vortex mode. It's called on my Crane gimbal, but I think on other gimbals it might be like a 360 or something. And yeah, it's basically just where a gimbal just does a full 360 by using the joystick on the the gimbal itself, and it will just do it at a same rate all the way around. You can adjust the rates in the apps if you need to. I find that this can be especially cool if you're like following a flip or something like that, and you're following someone getting up from the ground and following them all the way around till they are standing upright. That can look really cool. Again, it's one of those shots that you probably don't want to overdo very much, because it will make your audience feel nauseous if you do use that one too much. So just use it sparingly, but again, it's one of those things that I think can look quite cool. So number 6 is the pull back to reveal your subject in the shot. And yeah, it's pretty much exactly how it sounds. It's literally you just starting on a fixed point and then moving back to reveal the subject into the frame. And yeah, it's literally as simple as that, but it's a shot that I use a lot and I think it looks quite cool. Alright, cool guys, thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it a lot, and let me know down in the description if you've got any cool looking gimbal shots that you use on a regular basis, or something that I could potentially be using in the future just to kind of spice up the whole gimbal game a little bit more. And like the video if you found it useful, subscribe to see more things in the future, and take care. I'll see you later.